Hey, everybody, it's Real Tammy Unleashed show today from Attorney King Studios in beautiful Coronado, California. And today I've got an amazing woman, a definite Southern belle, you'll tell from the accent, a Texas girl, Jackie Horvik. One thing you know about me, I always mess names up, but it's
Hovorka.
Hovorka. She is a screenwriter, award-winning screenwriter, award-winning best-selling author, singer-songwriter, independent film producer with JJ Ranch Productions out of Texas with their husband, Marine Corps veteran Johnny. And say hello to everybody here today, Jackie.
Hello,
And
everybody. I'm so excited to be on the show. I appreciate Tommy for having me on, and we'll have a good time. I would love to tell y'all all about what we got going on down here in Texas.
yes, yes, please do. Why don't you give us a little background into what you do, what got you started, your passions, and then we'll slide into your really big project right now, which is hopefully going to be made into a feature film, The 12th Letter, which is an amazing story. So go right ahead, Jackie, and let's hear all about it.
Well, it goes back. I go back a long way with creative writing and songwriting. I first started playing the piano at about 5 years old when my grandmother put me on there, and she taught me. So I started writing songs 8, 9 years old. Had a few produced. Junior high is when I started the poetry, more just the literary work, poetry, writing books, things like that. Junior high, high school, went back to singing, performing, songwriting. It wasn't until my kids were a little older and after college, uh, I went and got myself a couple of degrees. And then I decided, okay, I want to get back into what I love to do, even though my degrees were in business and leadership, things like that. I needed a creative, I needed an outlet that, helped me with stress for one thing, and that made me happy in the way that, creatives out there probably understand what I'm saying. You do your day
Mm-hmm.
job and it's something you work really hard at, but you have to have something to come home to that kind of feeds into that creative energy and get it out there because it's all in your head. And so I started my first full novel, 300 pages. Oh, I was late 30. So it took a while till I actually finished a novel, and I queried it for a while. It took over a year before I was traditionally published, and that was on Phoenix.
Mm-hmm.
And once it got published, it became a bestseller. It won a couple of awards. So I kept going with that. And my publisher extended my contract to where I wrote two more Phoenix novels in the Phoenix trilogy, and those did well as well. After
Very good.
that, started working with my literary agent, and we did Orion Rising. It's kind of a cross between science fiction and drama, young adult, with a lot of history, and it crosses a lot of cultural backgrounds as well. That's the type of stuff I like to write. Then let's see. After all of that, I got lost at NRB at an NRB convention in Nashville, and landed on the PureFlix floor of the Gaylord Hotel, and pitched one of my novels to Angel Studios, and they
Mm-hmm.
were intrigued by it. So they wanted a screenplay. Well, I had to take screenplay writing classes first. So I
Never.
went through all that. And then that's actually the 12th letter.
Nice, nice. Well, I know it's no small feat. I've got two best-selling books that I wrote, and I say anybody that completes a book, it's a major achievement in their life because it's not easy. And it gets interesting, as you know, when you get it published and everything that comes after that.
Mhm.
because it's a lot of hard work. It's not, I used to relate it to the fact when I would give a talks on creative writing is that it's not a Hallmark movie where you get a check for $40,000 and you sit back and everything's great. No, you work, you work, you work. And I remember the first time I had to speak before about 300 people. And when I got up there, I didn't know what to say. And I just said, when I first did this, nobody told me I'd have to do this. And we learn as creatives to adapt and get used to that. And I remember um, a, a well-known author I know who's got a number of New York Times best-selling books that told me, he says, you have your first bestseller, the publisher is going to want you to have a second bestseller, and they're going to want you to have in the back of your mind a third bestseller, and that is challenging. That is very challenging. So congratulations, and you've got the perseverance to go forward and do that. You can't be shy. You have to pitch yourself when you go to all these events. And Angel Studios, I've met them once. A couple of years ago. It was through a friend of mine who's also a platinum singer-songwriter from Nashville and filmmaker. She introduced me to the couple from Angel Studios. Very nice people.
Yes.
Very nice. And in fact, they're the ones that did Jim Caviezel's movie. And we all know where that went. So.
Yep, that is what is exciting right now about movies that raise awareness for issues that are affecting the middle class and the poor.
Right.
There is a demand for these type of movies and hope-based movies. So it's an exciting time for people who write clean, good stuff for families because of the films that are coming out right now and are doing amazing. So this is a good time for us at jjranchproductions.com because that's what we do. So
yeah, and it's a much needed, long overdue.
Mm-hmm.
And I think as independents, we know what people like, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And for some reason, these big studios have lost that magic or lost that content or contact, and it's so relevant. And so you can see that people are craving to feel good and to believe in something again.
Well, and from military, boots on the ground, the indie authors, indie filmmakers, we are boots on the ground. We're grassroots. We're getting it done from a level that these major studios are not at. We're down here meeting people and like you said, the marketing and really trying to get things to happen. So while we're meeting people and learning from other people in the industry, we're figuring out what the viewers want to see or the readers want to read. So yeah, we're not up there real high. We're right here, and we're just excited to even have a seat at the table. But when we get that opportunity, we bring in what we've learned and gathered from watching and listening and communicating with others, and we try to get it out there to the masses so that they can relate to what we're producing, not put out something that the masses can't relate to.
Absolutely. So why don't you tell my listeners, and hopefully now they'll be your fans, about the 12th letter.
Yeah, so I actually wrote that storyline and then the novel after I met my husband, Johnny Hovorka. He is a 20-year Marine veteran.
I'm sorry.
He would tell me all kinds of stories about, he went to Somalia and he went to Iraq, and I learned a lot from him. He used to just tell me stories, and I would just listen, and I would soak it all up. And that's where I got the idea for Trey Reynolds. And Trey Reynolds is a disabled veteran. He actually is missing one leg because he lost it during his wartime in combat. And he comes back after losing his leg and also losing his fiance to pretty much nothing back at home. And the deal is not just my husband, but also meeting other veterans. What I'm learning is it's really hard to reacclimate back into life as a civilian in here after you've been over there and fighting and being shot at. And then also you were part of a tribe over there. You had your brothers, and when you come back here, it's like there's no one, and it's very sad, and there's a lot of psychological problems, and so we're losing. I think the veteran suicide rate has gone up now, but it was 22 a day. So it's already Texas time 5:30, and I say this in every speech I give about the 12th letter before we show the film, the short film. We've probably already lost maybe 15 veterans right now. That's sad. That's pretty sad. These are our heroes, and so that's what inspired me to write this novel, but also and the screenplay and pursue making it into a movie, but also because of what happened in Galveston in Texas, which is my home, or the state is my home. And I think a lot of people don't realize the sacrifices that the nuns at the orphanage in Galveston, Texas made in order to try to save the orphans that when they were hit by the hurricane. And it's so heart-wrenching when you read the stories of the 3 surviving orphans. And then on top of that, you hear this, or you read the stories of the other few survivors just in Galveston in particular, because it was an Atlantis leveling event. It was pretty much, Galveston was gone. And so we lost way more people in Galveston, Texas during the hurricane 1900 than we lost on the Titanic. And you see how James Cameron, he raised awareness for what happened to those people on the Titanic. And so I'm trying to do the same, because we lost a lot of families lost loved ones. We lost a lot of children, and then we lost those precious nuns as well. So I kind of combined both of those elements into some people will say, some of my readers will say, ghost story, but it's how the reader or the viewer wants to interpret it. I leave it to where they infer what they will, but some will say religious, that God has a hand in it, in the miraculous events that happen in the story. But at the end of the day, it's a story about hope. It is a story about the fact that you are always loved, and there is always going to be a light at the end of the tunnel, no matter how tough it seems right now. Hang in there, because it's going to happen. Things are going to work out. You just gotta have faith that it's all going to be okay. So
right.
With a lot of twists and turns and a lot of crying and science fiction, maybe, however the reader or the viewer wants to interpret it.
Well, I took it not so much as a ghost story. I guess I took it as more of a spiritual, supernatural story, and with a little bit of, I don't want to say love story, but I want to say kind of a mutual admiration that developed between the two main protagonists, which was very unique. In fact, I was talking to a friend the other day. Actually, she was my former publisher, and I said, "Well, I'm sorry, Jackie's already taken." But I was telling her about it a little bit, and she goes, "Wait, don't tell me." She says, "I can already feel where this is going." And I said, "Then you're probably right." And I said, "It's a great story. It's a great story." And who isn't fascinated by a little bit of romance, a little bit of supernatural, time travel, military, disaster. I mean, you've got everything in there,
It
and
hits all.
it blends together.
Yeah, it's a great couples movie. You know, it's also great for men because there are some combat scenes. It's great for young adults because it's still clean, and it is rich in history. So, yeah, I mean, there are things that people don't realize. Like, just throwing one fact out there: the Galveston port was almost as big as the port at Ellis Island. So until that hurricane, and we were getting a lot of immigrants through Galveston, pretty much similar to what we were getting up north. And once the hurricane hit, of course, well, actually, it was the 1923 hurricane. Galveston's been hit many times, but after the 1900 and then the 1923 hurricane, they moved the port into Houston, which you have to go through a ship channel now, which is a problem. So that's when New York, that port up there, started doing, growing even bigger, and we started growing smaller. But yeah, it's an important area, rich in history. People say ghost stories because there are a lot of different stories. You got Jean Lafitte, stories about him. And there's so much that people talk about. Oh, Bonnie and Clyde, that they robbed that bank and hid their things and their money under that bank. There's so much that went on in Galveston that people don't realize. It's a really neat place.
When you were first talking to me about this, it went to me. My first thought was the Galveston ship disaster.
Mm-hmm.
And when you were talking about the disaster, that's what I was thinking about. I didn't really know about this particular hurricane incident until I did research into what you were doing. Because I know Galveston's been hit several times by bad hurricanes, but being a former firefighter, I tied into the Galveston ship disaster because it essentially wiped out the city and killed all the fire department, everyone on the fire department.
That's another bad one. Yes.
It is. It was, so, wow, I don't know. For some reason, I don't think Galveston is a lucky place to be.
Oh, no, we want people in Galveston. We want everybody to come down, support local businesses in Texas. But yeah, we have our share of hurricanes. That's the only thing. But some of the buildings have made it to this day that were there during that hurricane.
Mm-hmm.
Don't know how, but they made it once the waters receded. And people rebuilt Galveston. They're just resilient. They keep rebuilding and rebuilding. So it's a really neat place. But yeah, we lost over 8,000 people in that hurricane alone. So it's sad, and we would like the world to know about it because, like I said, at the time, Galveston was booming. It was supposed to be just as great as New York. And the investors pulled out after a couple of hurricanes. So it's really sad. But
well, I think Galveston kind of came back, especially with the shipping industry, didn't it?
Well, that and oil,
and oil, right.
We lucked out. Yeah. When we discovered all of that down here south of I-10 around the Beaumont, all these areas. And then so we put the refineries in and things like that. So that's really helped Texas out, which I may write a book about that at some point too.
Okay. All right. Well, one quick second, I got to give a shout out to one of the local businesses that help support me, and that is the Norco Brewery, and it's a cowboy brewery. And I don't want to think I'm drinking beer. This is their homemade Yeehaw root beer, and it's really good. So my shout out to the Norco Brewery and also the Gray Wolf Brewery, which helps sponsor my show here in Norco.
Oh, that's cool.
Keep it local. Keep the people in business that make this country go.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. So, what would we do without our oil being refined here, guys? It's important. So,
I wouldn't know because we're getting electric cars here. So, you know.
Well, we still have to run our battleships. Well, nuclear too. We have all that, but you know what I mean. We were going to need oil for a while.
Yeah, I think so. So what else do you have on the block to work on?
Yeah, well, right now, JJ Ranch Productions, we are helping aspiring writers become published authors. So we have different packages that we offer. We offer the first packages where we take manuscripts and we publish them for the writers. We, of course, it has to go through acquisitions. We have an acquisitions editor. After that, we also have where we write screenplays for novelists that are already published that would like to turn their novel into a screenplay and see about moving into the art of movie making. Then after that, we do short films. So we have a great team together, and they're not just from Texas, they're actually from everywhere. We do a lot of our work remotely, and we include even a music team. So we do theme songs for the films that we produce. And the idea behind our company is that we wanted it to be a one-stop shop. We wanted authors to, to come to us, and we do it all for you, but we cannot do feature films. We're not at that point yet, Tommy. That is you guys, but we can definitely help get you to the short film, and that way you can go to film festivals, pitch it to people like Tommy, and win some awards, and try to see how far you can go with your story. Because like we were talking earlier, Tommy, there are so many amazing writers out there that, like you said, the big studios, they don't realize, because these writers have day jobs mostly, that are creating these masterpieces, and they have day jobs, and they don't have as much time to get to those bigger studios. So they're trying to just do it on the side or on the weekend or at night. And we want to be that gateway. We want to be that step in between to help get them from point A to point B. We can't guarantee anything, but we work really hard at JJ Ranch Productions. So.
Well, what I had learned, and I'm glad that you said that you're doing this one-stop thing, is because when I first got into writing, you had to discover everything for yourself. And it was difficult. And there's a lot of fly-by-night people out there. And I was fortunate enough to get associated with some good people, and I had a good publicist, and it got easier as I went along. But when you're first starting and you want to write a book, you don't know where to go. In fact, you don't even know how to start a book. And what I do when I talk to people, in fact, I'm giving a talk on Saturday. It's a military themed talk about writing military stories and then making them into screenplays. Is that a lot of people don't know where they want to start. They might have an idea, and I always tell them, just start journaling. Just start journaling, and things will come to your mind. It's not for everybody. You might find out by journaling, I really don't want to do this. But take that step forward. You might be surprised what happens. And then the next thing is I don't know how many people I have talked to, and they're all good people. Let's just say I've got this great story and I want to make it into a movie. And that's when, you really have to say, you have to understand something. When you're converting your story into a screenplay, we have to change it. We keep the essence of the story, but we may have to change characters. We may have to, especially if you have a conflict with a character's name, or you might have to combine a couple of characters. And I'm sure you run into that too. Everybody does.
Yep.
And tell them it's not for the faint of heart. It doesn't happen overnight, because you have rights, you have rewrites, you have rewrites, and you've worked with my producing partner Shar on your screenplay, and got a
She's the best. She's the best. I love her.
I had to post a picture with her and Mark Wahlberg that I came across the other day when we were.
Oh, Johnny's got a picture with Mark Wahlberg too.
Does he?
It was at a military base or something. Yeah. Oh yeah. Well, he was a celebrity bodyguard at one point. He's met so many celebrities. He's got all kinds of cool pictures too. But yeah, we really like Mark Wahlberg. If only we could get him in the 12th letter.
Yeah, absolutely. You never know. Never say never.
No, never say never.
No. But do you do feature scripts, or do you do like short scripts mainly?
So what I do for the clients is I take their novels and I do turn it into a feature film screenplay. But then I go back if they do enter into the short film package, I go back and I cut it into the short film where we still have that where the audience wants more, where we're still within that time period that meets the film festival requirements and for pitching to studios. So I do both for our clients, and then I write the theme song for their short film, which also helps in film festivals, because if it has an original theme song, that helps as well. I don't sing the theme songs. I cannot sing anymore. My Corinne is our singer, so right now she handles the vocals. Her and Kaylee Keller. We have Kaylee, another amazing singer. So we have a great team. But I do the full feature, and that way, if a studio wants it, then they can see the whole entire screenplay for the 2-hour movie. But you pointed out something that I do when I have client meetings, that I do tell the clients. It's really hard for a novelist to see a lot of things cut out of their novel. Mm-hmm. And so when I go into those meetings, that's one of the first things I begin with is, hey, get ready. I know this is your baby, but it's going to mean I'm going to be cutting some subplots. I'm going to be cutting a little bit of some characters or character arcs. I may have to emphasize other character arcs that are more important for a viewing audience than a reading audience. Mm-hmm. So that is one of the biggest discussions I have when I talk to novelists, because let me tell you, they spend over a year sometimes. And Tommy, we spent over a year writing those novels easily. And then someone's going to go in and cut it all up. But movie viewers have what I call ADD, attention deficit. They want it, and we only have a 2-hour amount of time at the max, hopefully. And they want it delivered quicker. They want the climax, they want the resolution, they want everything a lot quicker. And they also want to get into having an appreciation for the characters quicker. They don't want it to take too long, because then they'll just click, especially since we're streaming now. That makes it even harder. So, you have the viewer going, click, next, click. No. But one thing I do make sure, we have some great novelists as clients, but if I am cutting things up, I make sure that I don't have any plot holes, because that's one of the most annoying things that can happen in a movie, because you have very intelligent people watching these movies and giving these reviews, and that's one of the things that they look for. Hey, why did that happen? That couldn't have happened if this happened at this time period or this. So there's a lot involved that a novelist, Tommy, as you know, we've thought all that out, and we have it all in those 300, 400 pages. But when you're cutting it down into a screenplay that's maybe 100 pages, you have to be careful that you're not cutting something that could ruin that whole, that could open up some holes, and that can also have the viewer going, wow, this is boring, so there's a lot involved in it. And I do tell authors that it's not a piece of cake. But you get someone that that can write it and does well at what they do, and you'll have a good product. So,
Well, definitely. I tell people when I do it that you had, like you said, you have 300 some pages to build these characters and your scenes and everything in everybody's mind, and everybody interprets it differently.
mhm,
And what we're doing, and when we put it into a screenplay, is we're taking it and actually making it into a three-dimensional
mhm,
object that everybody sees the same thing.
mhm.
And by doing that, yeah, we've got 100. We break it down to 100 pages. Out of that 100 pages, might be 70 pages of dialogue, and the rest is all your action sequences and your other things. So
Ex-
it's it's hard. It's not easy. And I remember when I first got into this, and I don't know if Shar told you the story. It was my first movie, or my first book, which in fact her and I were going to make it into a film, and then COVID came along and everything, and but we went around and had a hard time finding a screenwriter to do the conversion.
hmm,
And I had the hard part, which all authors do, is like, it wasn't so much of them changing the characters around and adding characters, because I understand that whole process. It was, you have to have that person see your vision.
mhm,
And if they see your vision, what they do will just enhance your story.
mhm.
And so a friend of mine who has been in the film industry forever here in Hollywood said, nobody knows the story better than you do. So why don't you learn how to screenwrite and do your own adaptations? It was a challenge at first, because when you first do it, you go, oh no, I got to keep that in. I got to keep this dialogue in. And then as you're looking at it, it's going, well, in a movie, that doesn't make any sense.
Mhm, mhm.
And you get better at it, and you get more of a critical eye when you look at it. But I find, and I was asked just the other day, do you prefer writing books or writing screenplays? And I said, I think I actually like writing screenplays, because I can have that excitement of, I think my camera's acting up again. I can have that excitement of creating a whole new story.
Mhm. Yeah,
And
and I'll tell you. So, like, I took my young adult. It's an alien one, science fiction novel, and I was going to turn it into a TV series. I was looking into doing that, and I had to actually start at a different part of the story than where in the novel I started. Like, I had a
mhm,
lot of more. I had a lot more character background information to help the reader understand why this character was so angry, so that they wouldn't dislike the character right off the bat. So I put in scenes, or I put in a chapter or two that kind of showed that. But for a TV series or even for a movie, you have to get right in there. So I moved some things around with that screenplay. And I actually did it on one of my clients' screenplays as well, where I started at maybe like the eighth chapter of the book. And I wrote it in to where the things that happened in the beginning of the novel were kind of like flashback scenes. And so, yeah, there's a lot of, and, I taught school first. I've taught second through 12th grade. And what I've told second graders through 12th graders, and I've taught English and reading and writing. And I've told them all, I said, there are three things about writing. There are, a whole entire essay or novel, things like that, that you really flesh out information and get real deep into a story, and you can have all that internal dialogue and all that. But then you got poetry, and with poetry, which they have to take tests on this in all states, it's standardized testing where they have to interpret poems. Um, a poet has to tell a story in just a few stanzas. So you go from 300, 400 pages to a poem that is just one page in just a few
Right.
stanzas. And you have to tell the same story. And songwriters too. You only get 2 verses and a chorus that repeats itself. That's all you got to tell a story. So in some way, it's kind of like short films or people that write short stories. It's pretty much the same thing. You're condensing so much, and you've got to get there so much quicker. And in some ways, I would tell my students, and I'll tell some of my clients, some ways that's harder, guys, because, and I know the novel takes a lot longer, and you don't want to lose the reader's interest, and you got to describe everything, the scenes and how it plays out, and go into all that. But the shorter it is, in some ways, that's so much harder, because you've got to do it with very few words, to where the audience knows, oh, that's what this is about. So I don't know. It's just that's the interesting thing about writing. But I love writing. I love writing all of it. But there are positives and negatives to both. It just depends on what someone is into, what comes naturally for them, what they can hear for a song or see, how they view their characters, and how in depth they want to go, and they determine that. And like you said, journaling, that's kind of where you start to figure it out. If you journal a few pages and you want to go a lot further with it and really develop background stories on all your characters, then you're a novelist first. That's what you like to do. But if you just write a few pages and you're like, and this, it all comes together. I know my audience is going to understand this. You may be a songwriter or a short story writer or a screenwriter. You just never know. But it's an exciting world in the creative arts. So I'm just happy to be here and doing it and inspiring others to do it as well. But Tommy, you did say something. They got to finish it. Whatever they decide to do, they've got to follow through and finish it. That's what we always tell. We have a little writers podcast, and we say the same thing. Just follow through and finish. You will never know till you finish. Finish something and just see where it leads.
Well, I give tips to people for, I like to build my characters and their background story, because they become more real to you, and it's easier to put them into a situation and see where they go to. I've seen some scripts that people have written where there's no background story on the person. It's like, okay, well, what are their likes or their interests, or because that's going to affect how they're going to relate to the other characters in the story. And that's just, that's the way I do it. It sounds like that's the way you do it too. And I build a timeline too. I do an outline, and a great friend of mine, Peter, director, screenwriter from Hollywood, said it's like building a suspension bridge. You build one end, you build the other end, then you connect the two together.
Yep.
So you want to know where you're coming from, where you're going, and then you build the story together. And I always look at that, and I kind of do that on the outline to see, okay, it's going to end here. I'm going to start here. Now I got to work on the hard part in between.
Yeah. And I know that feeling.
And one interesting thing when you talk about television, and with television scripts, are a little bit different than film scripts, even short films. Whereas your average television show is a half an hour show, which means it's actually only 22 minutes of screen time. The rest is commercial. And and out of that 22 minutes, you have 11 minutes as the first half, 11 minutes as the second half, and each one of those you have to go through a 3x stanzas, and to complete the whole thing. And I think a TV is a lot harder than writing. because and that's why they have writers' rooms, and they have maybe five people that work in there, because you have to. How else are you gonna do that? That's really, to me, magical.
Yeah.
And if somebody wants a TV series, then you also have to tell them, because the studios are going to say they want to make sure that you got like 6 episodes minimum already written, so that if they do take it, they've got someplace to go with it. And they always want to know, what is your future outlook on this? Is this just going to be a limited series you want to do? Is this going to want to be extended? There's a lot of things that we have to put into consideration when we work on these, and that's what makes it so much fun.
Agreed. And and just, I am an avid watcher of all TV series, pretty much. And what I've found is that, you have to have that beginning and that end per episode, but it's still like you need to have something that keeps them coming back, the audience coming back and coming back and coming back. And it still has to tie into the main problem. You can't just solve the problem in 3 episodes and just introduce a whole new problem, because I mean, people want like that connection, but they still want closure at the end of each episode, but they want something that kind of, why it brings it all together, and they keep coming back for more. But I know Game of Thrones is not necessarily the best example to use, because I know there's like some bad stuff in there, but it is a novelist that wrote several books, so he already had the stakes were high at the beginning, and you were introduced to that, and you knew that was coming. So even though he would go into the screenwriters of that took his novels and turned it into series, they would go into other characters from the novels. It didn't bore you, because you knew, oh, wait, okay, they're introducing us to a new character. So how does that play out to those monsters that are up north? Like in your mind, you're like, this is going to come together at some point. And so as a viewer, it was brilliant how those writers did. They did a great job. But they also had novels to work off of. So that's why I always say, if you do have a novel, in fact, when we watch movies now, that if we see that it's based on a book, we know, we're like, it's gonna have, like you said, it's gonna have all the elements it needs, as long as the screenwriter did it justice.
Exactly. Yep. And you do hear that from people, especially authors. Well, I don't want to be like the movies that I've seen based on a book, and nothing like the book.
Oh yeah.
And you have to explain that's not how it works. It's here we call it, we got to Hollywood it up. and that's kind of tongue in cheek, but you want to, once you explain to them that, when you write this book, you're creating an image in each individual's mind, and each individual sees it differently. And so there's no way you're going to put that into a film. And you want to make it interesting and exciting, and make it basically a new story, because I don't think for the most people, they want to go see a film where they know how it's going to end.
Yeah.
They want to see what the creative process is, and take it from there. As long as it's not, you see some that I think are really bad, where they just totally butcher the ending, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And I still think there was room for Jack on that door with Rose. But anyhow, that's me.
Oh, yeah. But I love, so James, okay, so my love of movie making and screenwriting is actually from Terminator. That's one of my favorite movies. And I was in junior high reading his screenplay, his work. So I don't know what happened on Titanic, but I know Terminator, top notch. So I'll just but other than that, Titanic's great. But I know what you're saying.
Well, we're gonna have our meeting separate from this on the 12th letter next week, and the director is going to be involved in that. Worked with James Cameron on the Titanic and Terminator and on all those other films. So it'll be interesting to get his perspective, because that's the other thing when you work on a screenplay is the director's vision, and you have the DP's vision, because all three of you have to work together to make it work.
Yep.
Any one of those three sides of the pyramid could let the whole thing down if they don't have the same vision.
Exactly. And that's why I always say, and when I talk to my clients and we talk about their baby, which is their novel, I always say it takes a team to take it to the next level. You've done a great job. This is amazing. I love it, but it takes a team to go a little further, because there may be things that you're not seeing that the rest of the team can see. And that's why, like, we have Megan, our casting director. I want our team to know, okay, this person will be a great actress in this film. And, there are different things that if it's just one person with all that control, they don't see all the different sides and ideas that are coming from their staff if they don't open up to their team. So
right.
I always tell everybody, just remain open-minded, but still stick to your guns on things that are very important to you. The things that that, hey, this is non-negotiable. But if you don't open up and let others give their opinions and see how it's going to work, it's not going to go to the level that you need it to go to.
Right,
exactly. It takes a team.
It does. That most definitely does, and that's really important.
Yeah.
And I don't know, did you watch the film The Offer?
No.
You have to watch. The Offer is the story behind making of The Godfather.
Oh, well, then I gotta watch it.
You have to watch it, because one of the key points that they bring out in there is the author of The Godfather. They didn't want the author involved in the screenwriting process, because they go right in there and say the author's going to mess it up. He's not a screenwriter, whatever.
Yeah.
Well, obviously, he worked great with Francis Ford Coppola, and they created this iconic film through a collaboration between the writer and the screenwriter, and the friendship they developed. Part of it was filmed at our place in Hollywood at Post 43. Some of it was filmed there, but being there, I got to talk to actually some people that were involved in making of The Godfather, and they said the movie was very, very, very close to being accurate. They had liberties, of course, to make it interesting and all that we understand, but they said a lot of what went on, pitching it, getting the financing through the studios, and the studios wanted to be involved in the creative process for the financing, and then realized that they can't because they don't know what they're doing. It was a great film, and watch that. It's a binge watcher. It's like 6 episodes, and it's captivated right from the very beginning.
Oh, okay. Definitely.
Especially if you're doing what we do. It's fantastic.
Yeah, and of course Johnny loves The Godfather, his whole Italian background. I'm more science fiction, anything to do with aliens. So when you bring that up, I think of I Am Legend, based off of you know what so like it's based off the novel by Richard Matheson, one of my favorite, novels, but they did change it around in the one with Will Smith, the I Am Legend with Will Smith, which I preferred. I like that take better. But yeah, I think it made it gold. I think it made it amazing. I'm a huge fan of that movie. yeah, Johnny's into all that, the mobster stuff, and he loves. I have seen The Godfather, of course, but I will definitely see what you suggested though because of what we do. But it is novels and movies are similar, but they're so different, and that's the two key takeaways that people need to understand. You're getting a viewing audience and a hearing audience to see and hear things and feel things differently than you are a literary audience. And that, readers, they read books like it's chocolate, like real like bloggers and readers, the ones that are reading books like every other day, they just eat it up when it has all those elements that it needs to have. But to switch it over to an audience of viewers and listeners, you have to appeal to those senses, and that's very different from a novel, because a novel, you're relying on a reader's imagination to see those characters and to see those scenes and to feel those things and to hear things that they're not, you're not really hearing. It's your imagination. So, I mean, it's cool both ways, but yeah, that's why I understand it whenever they do change up things. And it doesn't bother me. I know a lot of people will say, well, the book's better than the movie. You hear that all the time. The book's better than the movie. Those are the diehard readers, because the book is going to be better than the movie because it goes into a lot of those subplots, like I said, and a lot more of the character arc you can see. So, but actors can nail it on a movie, though, that you can even just looking at their expression, they don't even have to say dialogue, and you're like, I know what's going
on. No, absolutely. Oh, wow. Well, I tell you what, Jackie, I think we've almost run the length of our show here. Wow, it's been really fun talking to you about this.
Oh, you too. I know, it's cool.
We'll have to get you back.
I'm a nerd.
Yeah. Well, let's get back, and we'll do another show a couple months down the road and see where we're at on everything and bring everybody back up to speed. But do you want to tell people how they can contact you, your website, that type of information? I know the studio has a dialogue box running on the bottom of the screen, but what would you like to add to that?
Yeah, so you can definitely reach out to us at jjranchproductions.com. You can subscribe to our newsletters and see what's going on. We update it pretty much every other week with what's going on with our clients' films, screenplays, things like that. We also will update it on what's going on with the 12th letter with Tommy and all of them. And so that's going to get fun as well as we begin that whole amazing process of turning the short film, which of course has won tons of awards all over the world. I'm just so thankful. But I am incredibly thankful that Tommy and his team are taking it on, and we're going to make it into a full feature film. But also my books, I do give discounts here and there. It will be on that website as well. So giveaways, you don't want to miss giveaways. And also our clients' books, we'll be doing giveaways and things like that. And you can also watch our podcast, The Right Stuff. That was our marketing specialist, Amber. She came up with that idea for a podcast name. It's a play on words. And because we love New Kids on the Block. Well, we used to. That was a long time.
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, so definitely find me there. I'm on Facebook, Twitter, TikTok. I do TikTok. I don't know how I do TikTok. I'm over 40 years old, but I am pulling off those videos, let me tell you. So check me out there, but it's all under Jackie Hovorka, and I look forward to meeting you all on social media.
It sounds great, Jackie. And if you haven't already picked up on this, yes, my production company, Proper Billions Productions, is working with Jackie and Johnny on turning this into a feature film. And our team is really excited to start the pre-development process in this fantastic, what'll be a fantastic movie. Let's just face it.
And thank you to Shar again. Shout out Shar for all your hard work for the table reads. We've been working hard. She's awesome. I love her.
Yeah, she is. She's a sweetheart, and also, God, I had some crayons around here for Johnny, but I can't find them.
I know you didn't. Oh, military people, you guys. Let me tell you. And I will tell you something funny real quick, and then you can let me go. So my son is in Air Force ROTC at school, and
Awesome.
So he told his sergeant today. He said my stepdaddy was in the Army for 20 years.
Oh no,
that's not gonna go over good.
No, not at all. That I could see that being an issue.
Not gonna go over good with the Marine. Nope. But he's finding out probably right now because he's watching.
All right. Well, hi, Johnny.
I love you.
All right, Jackie, thanks for being on the Real Tommy Unleashed this week. And this has been fun. Follow Jackie's website or TikTok or Instagram, Facebook, and all the other social media stuff. And keep up on what she's got going on. She's got some good stuff coming out. Thanks, Jackie.
You, Tommy. Thank you. I appreciate y'all.